Hello, and welcome to Cycles Decoded. Picture a young man in the 1960s standing in a crowded street, his voice lifted in protest against the Vietnam War. He believes, with fervent conviction, that his generation sees the world more clearly than those who came before. Fast forward to the 1990s, and you find his daughter, this time advocating for environmental reforms, convinced that her generation holds the real keys to understanding our planet's needs. And now, in the midst of the digital age, her son sits behind a screen, confident that the technology at his fingertips gives him insights unimaginable to his forebears. This cycle, of each generation seeing itself as the harbinger of truth, unfolds time and again. Each era is marked by a confidence that it holds a clearer vision, a more enlightened understanding than those who have walked this path before. But why does this cycle persist? What fuels this generational self-assurance? Is it merely a product of progress, or does it reveal something deeper about human nature and perception? Before we delve deeper, if you find value in these explorations, a like and a subscription mean a great deal. It's the simplest way to support this kind of work. And I'm always curious where in the world you're joining me tonight, and at what time. Drop it in the comments. I genuinely read them. And now, settle in. Let the noise of the day fall away as we explore the cycle of generational perception, where each new wave sees itself as the torchbearer of truth. Every generation stands at the precipice of change, looking both forward and back. It is a peculiar view, one that fosters a belief in having a unique grasp on the truth. This is not a modern phenomenon, nor is it confined to a particular culture or society. It is a cycle as old as civilization itself. To understand it, we must consider how each generation interprets its reality through the lens of its own time, shaped by technological, cultural, and social changes. Consider for a moment the concept of presentism in historiography. It speaks to the tendency of interpreting past events through the prism of present-day values and knowledge. This inclination reveals itself when today's generation views its perspective as inherently superior, often dismissing past beliefs as archaic or misguided. Yet, this is not merely arrogance. It is a natural outcome of living in a world that evolves at an ever-accelerating pace. As technology advances and societies transform, new generations are equipped with tools and insights that redefine what is considered truth. Surveys consistently show stark differences in values and beliefs across generations. These variations are not simply a matter of preference, but are deeply rooted in the distinct experiences that shape each cohort. The silent generation, for instance, emerged from the shadows of war, valuing stability and conformity. The boomers, on the other hand, grew up amidst economic prosperity and social upheaval, often prioritizing individualism and self-expression. Millennials and Gen Z, immersed in a digital landscape from a young age, navigate a world of constant connection, shaping perceptions of truth that are immediate and multifaceted. Yet, even as each generation claims its own clarity, there remains a thread of continuity, certain wisdoms and insights that transcend these temporal shifts. Foundational philosophical ideas, such as the pursuit of happiness, justice, and the nature of human existence, persist through the ages. Universal human experiences, like love, loss, and the search for meaning, bind us across time, offering a shared understanding that bridges generational divides. This interplay between generational perception and timeless wisdom forms a complex tapestry. New generations emerge with fresh perspectives, challenging the status quo and reshaping societal narratives. Yet, as they assert their truths, they are also subconsciously tethered to the enduring questions that have long fueled human inquiry. The cycle of generational perception is thus not simply a matter of claiming truth. It is a dance between the new and the old, a dialogue between the past and the present. Each generation contributes its voice to an ongoing conversation, one that evolves with each turn of the wheel. And in this cycle, we find a reflection of the broader human condition, a perpetual striving for understanding, even as the world around us continues to change. As we ponder these patterns, we might ask ourselves, how much of what we hold as truth is truly novel, and how much is simply our interpretation of a legacy that stretches far beyond our own experience? In the answers, we find the essence of this recurring cycle, a testament to both the dynamism and constancy of human perception. Throughout history, each generation has looked upon the world with fresh eyes, often believing it sees more clearly than those who came before. This belief is not merely a feature of modern life, it is a recurring pattern woven into the fabric of human history. Consider, for a moment, the Age of Enlightenment. This era, spanning the late 17th and 18th centuries, was a time when the prevailing ideas about science, philosophy, and society underwent profound transformation. It was a generational shift that radically reassessed what was considered true and valuable. The Enlightenment was marked by an emphasis on reason, scientific inquiry, and individualism over tradition and superstition. Philosophers like John Locke, Voltaire, and Immanuel Kant championed the power of human reason and the pursuit of knowledge. They challenged the authority of the church and monarchy, advocating for freedoms that would eventually shape modern democratic societies. This shift was not just a philosophical exercise, it was a generational movement that redefined societal norms and beliefs. The thinkers of the Enlightenment viewed themselves as torchbearers of truth, casting away the shadows of ignorance that they believed had darkened previous generations. Yet, this generational reassessment was not without its tensions. It often overlooked the wisdom embedded in the traditions it sought to dismantle. The Enlightenment's focus on reason sometimes dismissed the value of emotional and spiritual understanding, leading to a worldview that, while progressive, could be seen as incomplete. And so, we turn to another pivotal moment in history, the 1960s. This decade was a turbulent time of social upheaval and cultural revolution. In the United States and many parts of the world, a new generation emerged that questioned established norms. The counterculture movement, with its roots in civil rights, peace, and environmental activism, challenged the status quo. Young people took to the streets to protest against racial segregation, the Vietnam War, and environmental degradation. The 1960s saw an explosion of creativity and rebellion. Music, art, and literature became vehicles for expressing discontent and envisioning new possibilities. The civil rights movement, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., demanded equality and justice, reshaping the moral landscape of the nation. This was more than just a clash of ideals. It was a generational awakening that sought to redefine what was considered just and true. Yet, as with the Enlightenment, this generational reassessment was not without its blind spots. The fervor to reject the old sometimes led to the dismissal of valuable lessons from the past. In their quest for freedom, some movements overlooked the complexities of the issues they confronted. The desire for immediate change occasionally led to unintended consequences, reminding us that the past, while flawed, can still offer insights and warnings. Moreover, the very nature of generational reassessment often breeds conflict. In many instances, it is this conflict that drives social and political revolutions. Consider the French Revolution, which followed in the wake of the Enlightenment. It was a time when the younger generation, inspired by new ideas of liberty and equality, challenged the entrenched power structures of the old regime. This upheaval led to dramatic changes in French society and eventually influenced revolutions across the globe. However, the French Revolution also serves as a cautionary tale. The fervent pursuit of radical change led to a period of chaos and bloodshed, illustrating how generational reassessment can sometimes spiral out of control. It reminds us that while the desire to see more clearly is noble, it must be tempered with an understanding of the past and a willingness to learn from its mistakes. This pattern of generational reassessment is not confined to history books. It plays out in our lives today, as each new generation seeks to redefine what is true and valuable. The process is not linear. It is a cycle, one that continuously shapes and reshapes our world. As we reflect on these historical patterns, we must ask ourselves, what lessons can we learn from those who came before? How can we ensure that our quest for truth does not blind us to the wisdom of the past? In many ways, the cycles of generational reassessment underline the complexity of human progress. They show us that while each generation seeks to bring clarity, the truth is often multifaceted and elusive. The tension between old and new, between tradition and innovation, is a dance as old as time itself. It is a dance that keeps us questioning, growing and evolving. So as we look to the future, we must hold on to the understanding that truth is not a fixed point. It is a journey, one that each generation must undertake with humility and openness. By acknowledging the contributions and missteps of those who came before, we can move forward with a clearer vision, one that honors the past while embracing the future. In these patterns, we find both the promise and the peril of generational reassessment. The promise lies in the potential for growth and progress. The peril in the risk of repeating mistakes. As we navigate the cycles of history, may we do so with a mindful eye, ever aware of the truths we seek to illuminate and the shadows we must not overlook. Imagine a world without the internet, a world where information traveled at a snail's pace compared to today. It wasn't so long ago that newspapers and television were the primary sources of knowledge, shaping public opinion and defining what was considered true. But the digital revolution changed everything. With the click of a button, entire libraries of information became accessible, a wealth of data at one's fingertips. This transformation has been profound, altering the way each generation perceives truth and reality. The rise of the internet has democratized access to information. Where once only a few gatekeepers controlled the flow of knowledge, now anyone with a connection can broadcast their thoughts to the world. This shift has allowed for a diversity of voices that previously might have been silenced or ignored. However, with this empowerment comes a new challenge. The sheer volume of information can be overwhelming, and not all of it is accurate. Social media has further complicated this landscape. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram have become echo chambers where ideas are amplified within like-minded communities. For younger generations, these platforms are often the primary source of news and information. Studies have shown that social media usage varies significantly across age groups, with younger people more likely to consume news through these channels. This has created a divide in how different generations perceive truth. For many younger individuals, social media is a double-edged sword. It provides a platform for voices that challenge the status quo. Yet, it also fosters environments where misinformation can spread unchecked. The algorithms that power these networks are designed to keep users engaged, often by feeding them content that aligns with their existing beliefs. This can reinforce biases and create a skewed perception of reality. Older generations, by contrast, often approach technology with skepticism. Many grew up in an era where information was curated by trusted institutions, and the sudden influx of unfiltered data can seem chaotic. The transition from traditional media to digital platforms has been jarring for some, leading to a cautious approach towards online information. However, this skepticism isn't necessarily a barrier. It can also be a tool for critical engagement, prompting older individuals to question and verify before accepting new information as truth. Consider the differences in how generations use technology. Younger people, often referred to as digital natives, adapt quickly to new platforms and tools. They are comfortable navigating the vast seas of the internet, discerning between credible sources and dubious ones. This adaptability can give them a sense of seeing the world more clearly, of understanding the nuances of digital information. Older generations, while sometimes slower to adopt new technologies, bring a different kind of wisdom to the table. Their experience with traditional media gives them a foundation upon which to build a digital understanding. They may not be as quick to embrace every new trend, but their cautious approach can lead to a more measured perception of truth. There is a tension here, a push and pull between generations as they navigate this digital landscape. Each believes it sees the truth more clearly, shaped by the tools and technologies at its disposal. This tension is not new. It echoes throughout history as each generation adapts to technological advancements in its own way. The digital revolution has undoubtedly expanded the horizons of what is possible. It has connected the world in ways that were once unimaginable. Yet, it also poses significant challenges. Echo chambers and misinformation are byproducts of this interconnectedness. For every piece of groundbreaking information, there is another that distorts the truth. It is essential to recognize that technology is a tool, one that can be wielded for both clarity and confusion. While it offers new avenues for understanding, it also demands a higher level of discernment. As each generation grapples with these realities, they must find a balance between embracing new technologies and maintaining a healthy skepticism. In many ways, this dance between technology and perception is a reflection of our broader human experience. We are constantly seeking to understand the world around us, to separate fact from fiction. Technology can illuminate this path, but it can also obscure it. The challenge lies in navigating this duality, in using technology to broaden our perspectives while remaining vigilant against its potential pitfalls. And so, the question remains, how can we harness technology to see the truth more clearly, without falling prey to its illusions? This is a question each generation must answer for itself, a question that will continue to shape our understanding of reality in the years to come. As we ponder these considerations, it becomes clear that technology's role in shaping perception is both profound and complex. It offers new ways of seeing the world, yet requires us to be ever more discerning in how we interpret what we see. This delicate balance between clarity and confusion is the thread that weaves through the fabric of generational perception, a cycle that continues to evolve with each technological advancement. Welcome to the intricate tapestry of cultural and social influences, each thread woven with care, each color telling a story of its own. It's in this tapestry that generations find their perceptions of truth, not as isolated islands of thought, but as reflections of the world they inhabit. Consider for a moment the cultural narratives that shape our identities, the stories that define who we are, where we come from, and what we believe to be true. These narratives are passed down through family, community, and society, evolving with each generation as new voices add their own chapters. Cultural icons and media play a pivotal role in shaping these narratives, serving as mirrors of societal norms and values. Think of the impact of music, film, and literature, each era defined by its own set of cultural touchstones. In the 1960s, the counterculture movement, with its music and art, challenged the status quo, redefining what truth meant for a generation seeking change. The Beatles, Bob Dylan, and the Woodstock Festival became symbols of a new way of thinking, questioning authority and embracing freedom. This cultural shift wasn't just about entertainment. It was a redefinition of truth and reality for millions. As we move forward in time, the influence of cultural icons remains potent, yet the mediums have diversified. Today, social media influencers and digital content creators shape perceptions, their reach magnified by technology. The narratives they craft can spread globally in a matter of seconds, creating a shared sense of reality for those who engage with their content. This brings us to the role of social movements, powerful catalysts for redefining generational beliefs. Social movements are often born from a desire for change, a collective recognition that the existing narrative no longer serves the needs or truths of the people. The civil rights movement in the United States, for example, fundamentally altered the perception of truth regarding racial equality and justice. It was a movement rooted in the belief that the prevailing narrative was not the whole truth, that there was a deeper, more inclusive reality that needed to be acknowledged. More recently, movements like Me Too and Black Lives Matter have continued this legacy, challenging deeply entrenched norms and advocating for a broader understanding of truth. These movements highlight the power of collective action, showing how a generation can redefine its beliefs and values through shared experiences and objectives. Yet, it is important to recognize that these movements do not exist in a vacuum. They are influenced by the cultural and social context in which they arise, often meeting resistance from those who cling to the older narratives. Education, too, plays a significant role in shaping truth perception. The curriculum taught in schools reflects the values and priorities of a generation, influencing young minds and setting the stage for how they perceive the world. Educational reforms often mirror societal changes, incorporating new perspectives as the collective understanding of truth evolves. Consider, for example, how history is taught, the stories we choose to emphasize, and the ones we omit. These choices reflect the truths a generation is willing to accept and pass on. The impact of upbringing cannot be understated. Family values and traditions form the foundation of an individual's worldview. Parents and guardians pass down their own perceptions of truth, influenced by the cultural and social context of their time. In turn, children absorb these perceptions, often accepting them as their own, until they encounter new ideas and perspectives. This cycle of transmission and transformation is a constant, each generation building upon the truths of those that came before. However, cultural and social pressures can also stifle dissenting voices within a generation, limiting the scope of accepted truths. Conformity can become a barrier to new ideas, suppressing those who challenge the dominant narrative. In every era, there are individuals and groups who see the world differently, whose truths do not align with the mainstream. Their voices are often marginalized, their perspectives dismissed as fringe or radical. Yet, it is these very voices that can lead to the most profound shifts in truth perception. They challenge the status quo, forcing society to confront uncomfortable realities and consider alternative viewpoints. Over time, these dissenting perspectives can gain traction, becoming part of the cultural and social fabric. As we reflect on the cultural and social influences on truth perception, we see a complex interplay of forces at work. Each generation is shaped by the narratives it inherits, yet it also has the power to redefine those narratives. Through cultural icons, social movements, education, and upbringing, generations craft their own understanding of truth, a process as dynamic as it is enduring. This chapter of our exploration highlights the fluid nature of truth, how it is continually reshaped by the cultural and social currents of the time. And while each generation may believe it sees the truth more clearly, it is, in fact, part of an ongoing dialogue, a conversation between past, present, and future. In this way, the perception of truth is both a personal journey and a collective experience, one that transcends individual generations and speaks to the shared human quest for understanding. As we continue to navigate this journey, we must remain open to the diverse influences that shape our perception of truth, recognizing that it is not a fixed point, but an evolving narrative. In doing so, we honor the complexity of our shared reality and embrace the potential for growth and transformation that lies within each generation. This exploration of cultural and social influences on truth perception invites us to pause and consider our own place within this tapestry, to reflect on the narratives we have inherited and the ones we are creating for the future. As we do, we find that the pursuit of truth is not just a search for clarity, but a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Consider for a moment the journey of medical science over the last century. In the early 1900s, the idea that microscopic organisms could cause disease was still a relatively new concept. Antibiotics were yet to be discovered, and the average person had a very different understanding of health and illness than we do today. Fast forward to the 21st century, and we find ourselves in a world where genetic engineering, personalized medicine, and advanced surgical techniques are commonplace. Each of these scientific advancements has not only reshaped our understanding of health, but has also contributed to a broader shift in how different generations perceive truth. Scientific discoveries have a unique power. They can simultaneously challenge and refine what we consider to be true. When a groundbreaking discovery occurs, it often disrupts the status quo, forcing society to reassess previously held beliefs. These shifts can be profound. For example, the discovery of antibiotics in the 1920s revolutionized medicine, saving countless lives and altering perceptions of what was possible in treating infections. However, this revolution was not without resistance. Some resisted the idea of using synthetic drugs, preferring traditional remedies, which they believed to be more natural and safer. As generations come and go, each one inherits the scientific knowledge of the past and adds its own layer of understanding. This process is not always smooth. Often, there is a tension between the acceptance of new scientific knowledge and the skepticism that accompanies it. Older generations, who have lived through the introduction of these scientific breakthroughs, may have a different perspective than younger generations, who grow up with these advancements as part of their everyday reality. This can lead to a divide. An older individual might recall a time when penicillin was a miracle drug, while a younger person may take for granted the routine nature of antibiotic treatment. Climate change science offers another vivid example. The scientific consensus around climate change has grown steadily since the late 20th century. For younger generations, who have been educated with this knowledge as a given, the reality of climate change is often seen as an undeniable truth. They have grown up with climate science woven into their education, their media, and even their social consciousness. For them, the need for action is clear and urgent. However, older generations may remember a time when environmental concerns were not so prominently discussed, and the urgency of climate change was not as widely acknowledged. This can lead to differences in perception and urgency regarding environmental policies and personal responsibilities. But science does not only divide, it also has the potential to bridge these generational gaps. When scientific knowledge is effectively communicated and integrated into public consciousness, it can create a common ground for understanding. The role of science in bridging these divides is crucial. Through education and dialogue, science can help different generations find common truths, despite their differing starting points. This is evident in the way public health campaigns have successfully shifted perceptions across generations, using scientific evidence to promote healthier lifestyles and preventive measures. Yet, it is important to acknowledge that scientific progress is sometimes met with skepticism. This is particularly true when new discoveries challenge deeply held beliefs or threaten established interests. For instance, the resistance to the idea of vaccination has been a recurring theme through history. Despite overwhelming scientific evidence supporting the efficacy and safety of vaccines, skepticism persists, often fueled by misinformation and fear. This skepticism can be generational, with some older individuals recalling past medical practices with nostalgia, questioning the rapid changes brought by modern science. The evolution of truth through scientific progress is not a straightforward path. It involves negotiation, adaptation, and sometimes conflict. As each generation grapples with new scientific paradigms, they do so within the context of their own experiences and cultural backgrounds. This context shapes how they perceive truth, how they accept or resist change, and how they ultimately integrate new knowledge into their worldview. In the end, scientific progress serves as a powerful reminder of the ever-evolving nature of truth. It challenges us to remain open-minded, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the unknown. While each generation may believe it sees the truth more clearly, it is through the lens of science that we learn to appreciate the complexity and fluidity of reality. The dialogue between generations, facilitated by scientific advances, ensures that our collective understanding is always growing, always refining. And so, as we navigate the landscape of truth and knowledge, we must remember the role of science as both a disruptor and a unifier. It is through this lens that we can better understand the generational shifts in how truth is perceived, accepted, and sometimes resisted. In this constant interplay between old and new, between skepticism and acceptance, lies the true evolution of truth. Each generation contributes to the tapestry of knowledge, weaving its own perspectives into the fabric of reality, ever changing, ever evolving. As we stand on the cusp of new eras, the question of whether future generations will continue in the cycle of believing they see the truth more clearly than those before them looms large. It is a question deeply entwined with the fabric of human history, yet colored by the unique hues of the present and the potential of the future. Consider, for a moment, the rapid evolution of technology and culture. These twin forces have always shaped generational perspectives, but never more urgently than now. Predictions from futurists suggest that the convergence of artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and digital communication might redefine what it means to understand truth. Imagine a world where information is not just shared instantaneously, but synthesized in ways that could offer a more comprehensive view of reality. This kind of technological advancement could alter the familiar cycle, offering future generations tools that allow them to see the world through a more unified lens. And so we turn to the idea of global connectivity, a phenomenon that has already begun to reshape generational perspectives. Today's youth are growing up in a world that is more interconnected than any before. Social media, global news networks, and real-time communication break down geographical and cultural barriers, creating a shared experience that was once unimaginable. This connectivity might foster a generation that is less bound by the traditional cycles of perception, more attuned to a global consciousness that transcends individual generational truths. But even with these shifts, predicting the trajectory of future generational beliefs remains a challenge. The landscape of human understanding is complex and often unpredictable. While technological and cultural shifts may provide the tools for a breakthrough, they also bring new challenges. Future generations will likely grapple with issues that are only beginning to emerge: climate change, digital privacy, and the ethical implications of advanced technologies. These challenges could reshape how truth is perceived and understood, potentially creating entirely new paradigms that break from the cycles of the past. Current movements in youth activism provide a glimpse into this potential future. Young people today are not only inheriting the world, but actively shaping it. They bring with them a strong sense of urgency and responsibility, often demanding more transparency and action on global issues. This activism reflects a generational shift towards a more collective understanding of truth, one that might emphasize empathy and inclusivity over division. Yet it also underscores the continual cycle of generational perspectives, as each new wave seeks to redefine what is seen as true and just. As we look to the future, it is crucial to acknowledge the role of unforeseen events. Our history is punctuated by surprises that redefine societal norms and perceptions. The possibility of an unexpected breakthrough in understanding, driven by a combination of human ingenuity and circumstance, remains ever present. Such breakthroughs could fundamentally change the course of generational perspectives, offering insights that challenge the very notion of a linear or cyclical understanding of truth. However, it is equally possible that the cycle will continue, albeit in a new form. Each generation might still believe that it sees more clearly, but with a greater awareness of the interconnectedness of all human experience. This awareness could foster a more nuanced view, one that appreciates the complexity of truth as a mosaic rather than a clear-cut picture. Reflect on how understanding the cyclical nature of generational perception can foster empathy and dialogue across age groups, encouraging a more nuanced view of truth. By recognizing the patterns that have shaped human history, we can better appreciate the diverse perspectives that each generation brings. This understanding could be the key to bridging divides and building a future where truth is seen not as a fixed point, but as a shared journey. As we contemplate these possibilities, the future remains an open question, a blank canvas waiting to be painted by the hands of those yet to come. Whether this painting reflects a continuation of the cycle or a breakthrough in understanding will depend on the choices we make, the challenges we face, and the connections we forge. In embracing the uncertainty of what lies ahead, we find the potential for growth, understanding, and ultimately, a deeper connection to the truth that binds us all.